Okay, cool. Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. So I'll just begin. I'm Dakari Howard, and I am here with the SIFPAC team. I work as a supply chain development specialist here with SIFPAC, and we're really excited to be able to host Kim Hines and Erica Hall in their session on building professional development for food professionals. So right now, I'll just do a quick bit of housekeeping and some overview about our Zoom and Hoover etiquette. So give me a second and I'll share my screen. All right, that's myself. Cool. So welcome to the 16th Annual Chicago Food Justice Summit. And this presentation was created by our accessibility crew. And they did a good job of preparing and just kind of laying out some of the rules and Zoom etiquette and expectations that we have while we're going through these sessions virtually. So attendees of the Chicago Food Justice Summit have the option of accessing live session directly from the Hoover desktop app or mobile app via the Zoom client. For the most part, there's no difference between these two options other than the visual setup. Please see an example of the session access within the Hoover desktop app above. So it's kind of like basically what we're looking at right now with the live screens. For the attendees that choose to access these sessions via Zoom, they'll do so by clicking the link in the session window from the Hoover desktop app or mobile app. Below is a visual example of how to participate and engage in the summit sessions. So if you, at the end, when we're doing some questions, some back and forth, you can unmute yourself, but for the most part, while speakers are presenting, please make sure that you have your microphones muted. And like I mentioned before, like you decide to have your camera on and being participatory in that way. But if you don't feel comfortable being recorded, you can definitely just shut off your cameras. So some common Zoom etiquette is kind of like what I mentioned before. We want to be able to respect everybody in the place. So if you like, please rename yourself to reflect the name that you want to be called, and as well as your preferred gender pronouns. And so the way you can do that is just hovering over your name and then clicking the rename button and just adding your pronouns in. And also, just for the sake of our interpreters, please speak slowly for the translations and state your name every time that you speak for folks that's using ASL. And we also have accessing Zoom interpretation services. So we've enabled the interpretation services for each session. When entering a session, you will see a notification that interpretation services are available. And you can do this by clicking the globe icon and choose to enable the interpretation in the available languages, or prefer just simply turn this feature off. And this is basically a caption saying the same thing. We just have like the captions available right there. So if you look to the bottom of the screen, you'll see the closed caption option. You click on that, and then you'll start seeing verbal cues to kind of let you know and follow up with the conversation. So attendees in Hoover will still have the option to join these sessions directly in Zoom. But please note that if you're joining from Zoom, it will give you access to the Hoover chat, but it will not give you access to the Hoover chat, the polls, or the community board features. And that's just the issue of like the integration that we have, but we will be monitoring, myself and Claudia, we will be monitoring folks who are tuning in via Hoover to make sure all the questions are being answered and that you are able to participate in this conversation. And also, like if you're having some issues with connecting to your audio, maybe try like exiting out of the Zoom and re-entering and connecting with the computer audio. You can engage with speakers and sessions directly from the Hoover app. You can answer live polls prompted by the organizer speakers, and you can chat with other attendees to ask questions. We also have a community board that you can kind of tap into where people are sharing recipes, job opportunities, conversations, and just like a bigger way to connect virtually due to COVID-19. So that's pretty much it. And with that, I will pass it over to Kim Hines and Erica Hall.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. Kim and I are very honored and excited to be here to join you all for this wonderful event, the Chicago Food Justice Summit. My name is Erica Hall. I live in sunny St. Petersburg, Florida, and also from the ancestral lands of Seminole and Tocobaga. So, for those of you that would like to know how to look up the ancestral lands where you're located, let us know and I can put that in the chat for you. I'm currently the membership chair of NAFSN, which, as you all know, stands for the North American Food Systems Network. I'm also the chair of the Florida Food Policy Council and also the vice chair of the Suncoast Sierra Club. My work intersects between food justice, food insecurity, climate change, food waste, and environmental justice. So those two organizations, as well as NAFSN, they all connect. Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Hines, talking to you from Washington, D.C. But I want you to know that I am most comfortable as a hyper-local food systems activist, and just recently moved here from Augusta, Georgia, where my husband always said, my car was either a barn or a kitchen, depending on the day. While I am in DC now, I was born in Chicago, in the Chicago area, in Harwood Heights specifically. And my earliest memory is walking to get cookie samples from the Maurice Linnell factory, which probably dates me considerably. Thanks for having us today.
Okay, so we'll get started. Again, I'm the membership chair. Kim is the co-chair of the leadership of NAFSN, and I'm the membership chair. Today, we'd like to talk to you a little bit about NAFSN and find out a little bit more about you all and what NAFSN can hopefully provide to you. NAFSN, known as the North American Food Systems Network, is a professional development association for all people working to improve local and regional food systems. So we know that some of you are new to this movement. Others have been doing it for a long time, even decades. Some of you are full-time paid professionals with livelihoods sustained by working within this space. Others, such as myself, are part-time temporary contractors and or volunteers, such as myself, and not yet making a living wage from your important work. So the purpose of this session, you ask, what is the purpose? Is to introduce all of you to NAFSN. We intend to engage as many voices as possible in order to define and promote this emerging profession. We know this will fail if we do not apply what I call a Jedi lens, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, to our community of practice at every step of the way. With your help, we want to begin to create a shared code of ethics that is informed by a growing body of knowledge, firmly grounded in both research and life experiences.
Over and over again, failures of our modern food system are directly linked to social, economic, and ecological crises. College degrees and certification programs have sprung up all throughout higher education. Local and regional food systems innovators, researchers, and activists abound. All who work within and at the periphery of this space are necessary to restorative food growing practices, fair economic opportunities, and equitable access to farmland and nutrition. Yet there still aren't enough formal employment or career opportunities for the thousands of people ready and willing to do this transformative work.
So thank you, Kim. We'll start with the poll. We would like to know where you currently sit in the food systems profession continuum. So the first question is about your own employment status within this space. And I believe the poll will be put up there for you to complete. Please respond to this poll. Are you one, a full-time employee, or are you full-time employed in food systems work? And two, are you part-time or temporarily contracted in systems work? Or three, mostly a volunteer in this space? So we'll give you all a few minutes when you see that poll come up to please complete that for us. So I'll go on. After we get the answers to those poll questions, we have a few more for you. So have we put those up? I can't see the chat.
No, so we aren't able to put them up, but I will be adding them to the chat here, and then I will give people options to kind of just respond by number or self-describe.
Okay, so we'll go on. We'll put another poll question in the chat as well, where we'd like to know the spectrum of how long you've been engaged in this work. So often we find the number of years given to this movement. Sometimes it doesn't match up with the number of livelihoods being sustained by this work. So another question we'll have in the chat is how many years you've been engaged in this work, not necessarily what you're being paid for now, but your volunteer work and other areas. How long have you been engaged in the food systems? And once we get those results, Kim will read the results of that poll. So I'll turn it over to Kim now to talk a little bit more about our foundation.
Great, thank you. This is what today's session will look like. We just completed our welcome and our introductions. We're going to look at trends in the food systems profession, elements of professional development needed to evolve our emerging community of practice, and developing a code of practice together. I'm sorry, that should say a code of ethics together. First we want to introduce you to NAFS. As we examine the research, as we examine the research together, we will also take a look at elements of professional development associations as a whole. We hope this exercise will give us all a better understanding of how and where we should put our energies and resources. In other words, let's talk about how professional development associations make higher education and continuing education more accessible. Let's talk about how professional development associations improve support systems for communities of practice. And let's talk about how professional development associations leverage political will and economic investment on behalf of their members. We also want to talk about how we hold each other and ourselves accountable. So we're going to turn, at that point, we're going to be turning the microphone over to you. For now, what is NAFS? NAFS is a professional development association. It's rather new, and Erica and I are brand new to the organization. I've been with NAFS since the summer, and Erica came on in the fall of 2020. Everyone is welcome to NAFS, practitioners, academics, scientists, researchers, students, farmers, good food business owners, engineers, city planners, community developers, educators, healthcare providers, we advocates, policy wonks. This is not an exhaustive list. As you know, this work requires all of us. NAFS is a small member-driven organization and currently all volunteer run. Like many of your organizations, our administrative capacity is quite limited at this time. Nonetheless, NAFS accomplishes its work as a network of collaborators representing a wide diversity of food systems, institutions, and organizations. with substantial years of experience and knowledge. NAFS's Leadership Circle has been updating its values, mission, and mission statement and vision statement, and we'd like to share some of those with you today. So here you'll see the North American Food Systems Network. Hold on, I'll need to read it too.
So here's the value statement. Kim, you want me to
Yes, please.
go through it?
Thank you.
Okay, so the value statement, NAFS works to be a leader in the professional development of food system practitioners and the food systems profession itself by tapping into a diverse network of food systems professionals who value community, collaboration, innovation, integrity, that's key, justice, equity, productivity, education, and efficacy. You didn't mean efficiency, did you, Kim?
Efficacy.
Okay, well, there you go.
I think that's what we're getting at.
So and then our vision statement is we envision a future in which food systems practitioners have the tools and support to effectively support the development of viable local and regional food systems that offer rewarding economic opportunities for producers, as well as provide access to healthful, safe, reliable, affordable, biodiverse, and culturally diverse connections to food for all. Now, our mission statement, we're currently in the process of updating it, and it is there. But one of the things that we're looking at is in light of the pandemic and social and racial injustice, and we're looking at doing our work through a Jedi lens. This may change as we update it, but for today, this is our mission, is to support equitable and sustainable food systems by, how do we do this, you ask? We do this by, one, creating opportunities for professional growth for food systems development practitioners. Two, by identifying and encouraging best practices. Three, expanding applied research on food systems. And four, developing tools, methods, and programs to build the capacity of communities to engage in food systems innovations. As I said, we're updating this and we're looking at ourselves and how we can do this through a Jedi lens in our principles. So again, this may change, but for now, this has been NAFS's mission statement. Kim, did you want to talk a little bit about the monthly leadership circle meetings, or did you want me to go ahead, please, as you're the leader?
Go ahead. I love it.
As the membership chair, again, Kim mentioned I'm a new member. For me, one of the important reasons why I joined NAFS was to bring my voice as a BIPOC person in this space and doing this work. I wanted to make sure that my voice was heard as to what I would like to see from a professional development organization. So Kim is the co-chair of our leadership circle, and we have a monthly leadership circle meeting. So if any of you would like to sit in on that as we finalize our updated mission statement, please reach out to us after this meeting. So Kim will go ahead and talk a little bit more about jobs, etc.
Absolutely. So NAFSN is a web-centered system of support and engagement for people working in food systems throughout North America. We aggregate a plethora of professional development resources and opportunities by paying attention to what is happening at local and regional food fronts. Our website is deep, meaning there's a ton of information on it. And yes, we know our website needs updating badly, and please rest assured, we are working on that. Nonetheless, the information you'll find within is already powerful in its purpose and potential. For example, we have probably the most comprehensive job postings in food systems work today. Our work study students update this regularly. As you can see, it was just being updated today, or I guess that was yesterday. It's free to access and it's updated at least weekly, if not more often. Please note that you're free to post a job or look for a job. There is no cost to that. We have a source book. The source book is a shared resource that we share with our sister affiliate, which is the Journal for Agriculture, Food Systems, and Community Development, which is open source, and it is the first and only community-supported academic journal, which is really cool. And I encourage you to reach out to them if you're interested more in that. Together, we oversee this resource, this directory. I guess you could call it a yellow pages for people and programs and everything going on within food systems. We update tools. Our tools are, and I'm sorry, we won't be able to access tools because we do ask that you sign up as a member in order to access the tools. Their membership has a wide variety of different levels, including a free option for those who need the free option. But the tools include access to things like food academic programs and food systems and scholarships and fellowships, but also resources for getting published within the system, within food systems. We maintain a calendar of events, and this just isn't about NAFS events, although we do have some NAFS events, such as this one here, but we are constantly looking at the bigger picture and posting as many events as we can see, such as the one today. Some of the other things that we do is we feature stories of folks that are working at the front lines of food systems. These are two of our most recently featured folks, Chloe Waterman at Friends of the Earth and Charlie Monroe of the American Community Gardening Association. As you can see, we're telling the stories because what we hope is that young professionals, emerging professionals, will see themselves within these stories.
Go ahead, Kim.
Voices from the Grassroots Online Quarterly. This is a publication that is curated by Dr. Regina Bernard Carrera at CUNY. I don't know if anybody knows her, but you would submit your articles to Dr. Bernard, and she would decide whether or not to publish them in our quarterly. She has like themes. Right now, the theme is food, faith, and farming. We also have ongoing themes of poetry and COVID-19. So we encourage you to get published. We use these publications to project, again, your own stories of what's going on out there in your work. Finally, we put out a newsletter monthly, sometimes every other month. And this, again, tells the stories of what's going on, not in NAFS, sometimes within NAFS, but out in food systems. Of course, projects done in collaboration with partners have the deepest reach in NAFSN. For example, NAFSN is a founding partner of a project coordinated with Iowa State University that is identifying core competencies in food systems and matching food systems degree programs to those core competencies. And that is the beginning of developing a profession with some legs, I believe. ISU plans to make this project available to the public later this year, and NAFSN will help guide people to that growing body of knowledge. NAFSN also coordinates a collaborative working group of experienced professionals creating a self-assessment checklist for communities hoping to leverage their local food systems to create greater community-wide resiliency. I'm sorry if I'm speaking too fast. NAFSN maintains a symbiotic relationship with the Journal of Agriculture, Food Systems, and Community Development. This open source, community supported, peer reviewed journal is a sister affiliate of NAFSN. Both are sponsored by the Thomas License Center for Civic Agriculture and Food Systems, which is a project of the Center for Transformative Action, a nonprofit affiliate of Cornell University. Suffice it to say that without the journal, led by managing editors Duncan Helchi and Amy Christian, there would be no NAFSN.
And if I could just take a minute here, Kim, to plug the journal, that was really my introduction to NAFSN, was through the journal. As a community development professional, I was interested in articles about food policy councils and food hubs, as well as other topics around the realm of community development and food systems. And the journal was a very powerful piece, and they are the ones that really introduced me to NAFS. So just a quick plug for them. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I have the same plug. I was drawn in by the journal as well because I was looking for research to substantiate my grant writing for food systems work. And so this is where I came, and I was like, yes, please, more of that. Thank you. And it being open source is a huge deal, I think. I think we should all think, yeah, of the whole notion of a community supported journal is pretty innovative. All right, I want y'all to know, I have worked in the nonprofit sector for like almost 40 years. And saying that, I can say that it is very rare for a nonprofit to be able to point to a foundational study of 1,300 participants to make the case for its existence. Yet NAFSN, a very small, all-volunteer, member-driven organization, can do just that. The first study, oh, how come I can't open that? Oh, uh-oh, this is not gonna be good. Let me see if I can open that. There we go. The first study conducted in 2012. So this was before, just as NAFSN was getting off the ground, because it was conducted by the steering committee, showed professional development trends, like gave a baseline for our shared profession, which I'm like so excited about. And I know that makes me a total nerd, but I don't care because I think this is great, great stuff. We need a baseline. And so I will, I welcome you to access this through our website, but I just wanted to point out some really great stats that probably won't surprise you, but certainly from which we can work. So back then, occupational categories, most of them were in internships, right? So we're like, yeah, let's grow some jobs, right? Let's grow some long-term jobs. Employees of nonprofit organizations, and then the list goes down from there. So you see where our work is cut out for us right in here. Look at that. That's not low number in the for-profit industry, for example. Great stuff. I wanted to show you one other thing. Respondents included staff members of nonprofit organizations, institutions, but within here you can see a lot of the elements, the places, the spaces in which we all work together, not even represented here. And so again, the baseline becomes this important documentation of the history of what we're all doing together. It won't surprise you, of course, that a lack of resources was identified in this paper as one of the primary things holding us back. And I'm sure that still sounds familiar to us today. But as someone who is actively involved in posting the jobs that we're seeing popping up all over North America, I can tell you that good news is on the horizon.
Kim, I don't think they can see the report on the screen.
Oh,
the white.
You mean of the white? I'm going to go on to, I just showed that white paper right there. Yeah. again, that white paper is accessible on our website.
Okay.
This is as a result of that white paper and 1,300 respondents, this is what we are today. We are a flat organization. We don't have a hierarchy. All of these working circles work autonomously, and then everyone is accountable to each other within the leadership circle. This is the membership circle is so new. It's not even on this graph because Erica actually created the membership circle after this date, the date of this. So I just wanted to let y'all know that not only is it flat, it's also growing. The structure of our organization is due to one of the founding members and the outgoing chair, leadership chair, Dr. Gail Myers, who is, we were just going to give a plug to her work. Does everyone know Dr. Gail Myers? I'm sorry, I can't see faces very well in this.
Yes, a few
format.
people mentioned.
You know Dr. Myers? Great, great. Well, we want to take this opportunity to promote her because once she left NAFS, she took up with that project that she's been working on, The Rhythms of the Land, a documentary, which will show a trailer of which will be shown for the first time tomorrow. So look that up on Eventbrite, and please, please, please support her work if you feel compelled to be a part of its manifestation. She does have a fundraiser on GoFundMe.
And we'll put that in the chat as well.
So a follow-up study was conducted in trends in the food systems profession. This study is not yet available for public distribution. It still only has a little bit of work to do before it's published. But what we wanted to do is present this to you. We are one of the first public groups to see some of the trends that we're seeing. For example, training for working with socially disadvantaged groups was reported as the current #1 need among respondents. Training in adding strategies tied with training related to food hubs as the #2 among respondents. Challenges of racial and cultural divides and of addressing the underlying causes of problems as opposed to symptoms of problems were much more commonly cited in 2019 than they were in 2012. And so intuitively, I think we all know and feel that, but to be able to see that in numbers helps us make the case as we go about leveraging support on behalf of the profession itself. Trends continue. Highly educated white women continue to dominate the responding professions. That is problematic, and that is something that the profession itself needs to address. Remember, this follow-up study was done in 2019, and it is likely that we are just not plugging into all the groups already at work in a way that would have affected the respondents group. The primary foci of food systems professionals continues to be related to fostering knowledge and our leadership and increasing food security and access to healthy foods. And 2/3 of 2019 survey respondents consider themselves to be food justice activists, which is an item not even included on the 2012 questionnaire. Good news. Although why only 2/3? I don't get that part. Trends in the food systems development profession. I'm sorry this graph isn't great, but I think that it can give you a little bit of an impression here. For example, how big the idea of food systems has become and the work within there. And a need for additional training within. This figure shows select the technical skills you believe you need training in. So there's more of this. And we'll be sharing this with you so you can look a little bit more closely after this presentation. And finally, this shouldn't surprise anyone. Please just describe what you or your organization would need for you to succeed in creating knowledge, products, papers, videos, guides while taking a break from frontline work, money, and staff. Top needs, as well as training, as well as time. Not sure we can help with that, and networking. I also find this really interesting that I don't know. So we're going to switch now into what do professional development associations do? I am going to turn it over to Erica.
Yes, thank you. So, what elements of professional development do our shared community of practice want to nurture? We ask these questions to our membership, and we received quite a bit of responses. But given these known challenges among food system professionals and given NAFS's role as a professional development association, which I'm going to abbreviate and say PDA. I know PDA is also, mwah, but we're going to say PDA for Professional Development Association. We knew it was important to understand how other PDAs serve and support their members. We also wanted to better understand how associations leverage the collective power of their memberships to leverage favorable policy decisions and trends. We know in this work, policy is very important. So making sure that we engage our members and pointing them in a direction where they can learn more about policy and possibly become better in policy is one of our goals. So this graph, you will find all the elements that we could find of professional development associations. So take a minute, and if you can, and look at this. And as you can see, NAFSN already engages its members in many of these elements as shown in orange. So we already engage our members in a lot of these activities. So we're on pace to do a great job compared to other professional development associations. And we continue to look at ways we can be better and how we can better serve our members. So we are working also to establish a few others as shown in green. And you can see those, which are also very important. Kim alluded earlier to the code of ethics for the community of practice. So we hope to get your input on that. But as you can see, our work has only just begun. The elements in blue have yet to be established. But we feel if we are to become a viable membership association for food systems professionals, that we can do better, and you will be among our peers and colleagues that will help us to be better with your comments and your constructive criticism. So we look forward to that. Let's see, we scroll down through this. So as you look at that, just let me say before we get into this, before we leave this, this here, as you look at it, what ideas for professional development activities do you see missing? And in the chat, help us to see what we might be missing. So as you look at this and you see all of these activities, if you see some missing or if there's some that should be on this list that we don't have, please feel free to put that in the chat. And now, please.
Erica, I'd like to see the chat. Is there a way that I can see that?
And at this point, Kim, let's stop and see if there are any questions as people do look through this and put ideas in the chat. If there are any questions quickly, maybe we can answer them if you want to put them in the chat, and maybe our team can help us kind of go through them and see if there's any that may be related to this, or we can stop and maybe answer a few questions. So are there any questions so far?
On the Hoover platform and here on Zoom, we don't have any questions just yet.
Okay.
You have responses to the survey that you had earlier.
Great. So we'll keep going.
Okay.
Oh, here's some field trips. There you go. Field trips. I'm writing all these down for sure. I'm going to take pictures of these. Resume and cover letter help. I'm just going to take pictures right off the bat.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other ideas that you would expect from a professional development association? One of the ones that I think about often is how do we leverage not only just support, but how do we leverage championing from allied companies, right? For-profit organizations. How do we leverage our knowledge and our membership to help them understand how important it is for them to invest in the professional development of the people who are actually doing the work in the community to sustain their businesses? And that is something that NAFS is going to be looking at quite closely over the next few years. We're seeing some mentoring. Oh, you're right. Interview practice. My partner works with a company that makes their trainees do mock interviews. Absolutely. More ideas for mentorship programs. Shadowing would be awesome. Cultivating employee and workplace culture. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Someone mentioned that I need to share that screen again to show, to spur some more ideas. So let me just do that.
And then I could help you all. If I see any questions, I'll just shout them out to you all.
Okay.
That's awesome. Thank you. Do you want me to move on, Erica?
Sure. We could talk about our next part of the presentation, I believe, was developing the code of ethics. So if you wanted to start it, or I could start it, either one. Go ahead.
Well, you saw in the last box that that's one of the things that we're committed to doing right away. And I just want to say that that's so audacious for, a small group like us to think, oh, we're going to be creating a code of ethics for an entire profession. And we don't want to do that. What we want to do is take the whole year or 2 years, whatever it takes, to gather input and voices at events just like this, so that we make sure that we have as much input and as much thought put into a code of ethics as possible, one that we hope eventually your own organizations will adopt, as well as NAFS. So Erica, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Yeah, so what is a code of ethics? Next slide, please, so I could get into it. What is a code of ethics? A code of ethics is a set of official standards of conduct that the members of a group are expected to uphold, as per dictionary.com. We've all heard and seen what codes of ethics are. Our government, our legislative officials are supposed to uphold the code of ethics. A lot of disciplines have code of ethics. Lawyers, doctors, accountants, they all have a certain code of ethics that they're supposed to uphold, in their job. So as an association, we feel as if we should have a code of ethics.
Yeah.
So a code of ethics allows us to examine the complexities of our work and obtain guidance from ethical decision making above and beyond what laws and policies can monitor. Upending conventional food systems rooted in extraction and exploitation will require a standard of conduct that stands in opposition to norms. What standards of conduct would you expect to foster within the unique work that is food systems? So, for me, let me just start the conversation as you all think about, as we put in the chat and we send out this poll. Code of ethics in the food systems. Right now, again, in light of the pandemic and racial and social injustice in our work, a lot of groups are re-examining their mission values, their goals, and looking at it through a Jedi lens. Are we really doing all we can to be equitable, diverse, inclusive? Do we show justice in our work? And some of that, people create a code of ethics from that. So just to frame it for you, around codes, around what code of ethic might look like for your organization, and what NAFSN is looking at when we're looking at our codes of ethics. Kim, you want to go ahead?
I will. I'm gonna bring some detail from the chat for you, Erica. Steph suggests that maybe a code of ethics would include conflict resolution practices as well.
Absolutely. And that's something that our group is considering as well as we do this work and as we prepare to be a better professional development association. And as we have grown, that is something that I believe our leadership is looking at. Kim, did you want to say something?
Erica, Chad asks if NAFSN is working on policy development yet. I think what Chad, forgive me if I get this wrong, but I think what you need is influencing policy within the government structures. And I would just like to say that we don't feel ready for that at this time yet, but it is in our list of goals to get to that point, or at least as a membership to start talking about getting to that point, what it requires.
That's what I meant. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but what we do, Kim, is that we do provide maybe resources and other groups that may be more into policy development. And we will always share information, opportunities for training in policy, and also resources around how to create policy in your local neighborhoods if we are not the direct groups of policy development. But we can maybe, when we receive information about policy, and guide people to their local policy makers, if that makes sense. Go ahead, Kim.
Absolutely. Emily Cross notes that, yeah, that would be a lot to ask our organization for sure at this point in time. But, we have done studies on other successful professional development organizations, and we've seen them grow over time. And as they are able to build that network of membership, they are also able to build the capacity to get into that so that their actual members are influencing the policy work that is going on. Someone asked, A Team from WOBA asked, can you give an example of conflict resolution?
I don't know how to answer that question. What do you mean an example of conflict resolution? Do you mean a policy, or how people deal with conflict resolution? That's kind of a loaded question to me. I mean, maybe Kim, you might have a different answer for that.
I think the question is at the root of what we're talking about, that we know that conflict resolution is very necessary in every profession, and especially ours, where there is all these intersections, and there's all of these priorities. And so part of coming up with a with a code of ethics is actually to address that in a way that makes sense of what is conflict resolution? Where do we get support for conflict resolution? Where is the neutral party to help us with that?
Right.
Yeah.
And how to respect people's space. And Kim, we had an issue, earlier, late last year, where on our blog, where we share information, a lot of our members that participate on that blog felt that a comment was inappropriate, and they were gaslighting or ghosting people, if you will. So people challenged us as the leaders of that space to create a safe space for people and to come up with rules of engagement, I believe it was called, right, Kim? Or we called it rules of engagement, or I don't remember how it came up, but that's an example of creating these safe places for people to feel that they can have these discussions, and what happens when someone violates that space, and how do you protect everyone in that space and protect yourself. So that was something that we had to grapple with internally, and then talk to the people that kind of suggested that we hadn't created a safe space. So Kim, you want to talk about that a little bit?
And the way that NAFS will do that and does do that is we go again and we look at whatever, other ways that other groups are doing that, and then compile them so that they're easy, so that the aggregation of those approaches is accessible to you.
I have a clarifying point too. Steph, she mentioned that when I mentioned conflict resolution earlier, I meant how do you address things that are negatively impacting a shared work environment in a way where everyone feels heard, healed, and can move forward with a more comfortable environment. Or in better words, exactly what Erica is saying right now. Ha ha ha. So you all covered it.
Yeah.
And then Emily followed up by saying, by not taking it personally as much as possible and creating a culture of comfortability within conflict, not a top-down approach to issues.
Absolutely. And Emily, you hit it on the head. Creating that space, like I mentioned, creating that safe place where people feel like what they say there and what discussions take place there, that everyone's safe to say what they feel in that space without judgment, without repercussions, and without any pushback. So absolutely.
The hardest thing of all is, of course, holding each other accountable. Once we get the words down, right, in a code of ethics, once we, have access some great resources on that, then how do we, in a moment by moment, have applied that code of ethics? And we are in no way, shape, or form going to answer that question today. What we want to do is make sure the conversation is going on and to collect all the input into that at this moment. And not just in this moment, in these next several months, and if it takes years.
And as you all think about it and take back with you, respect people's space and place, and have people respect yours. Boundaries are important. Respecting people's space is important, while also allowing that space for all of us to have conversations. So as we want to be respected, give that same respect to people that are in your area and your arena that also would like to make their voices heard. So are there any questions or comments on that before we move on?
I have one. Could y'all speak to when creating a code of conduct, how important it is for renegotiation as a team like grows and changes with time? I think that many times like people establish a code of conduct or like a rule and regulation protocol, and they have it pretty stagnant, though like the team is having a lot of new players into it, and there's just different things going on environmentally. So could you all speak to like the importance of renegotiation with contracts and agreements?
I know when you introduced yourself to me earlier, an hour ago, you noted that you're working with a lot of partners in the community. And so I'm going to turn it right back to you. How often would you update something like that, knowing the speed at which this work is happening and knowing the speed at which these partners are coming on, going off, all of that? Is that an annual thing for you? Is that every 3 years?
I think that it's pretty situational. When you get new information, you share that information with the people that's directly affected by that. And then you all sit with that information and assess like what are your assets that you have right now, and how does this new information affect those assets that you have right now. And then looking at people's capacity for, adapting to like this new information. So with that, it's like, okay, then you have to decide like, am I sticking to my original plan, and like how much can this be adapted by this plan, or, things like that. So I think that like annually, of course, but I think like quarterly, I think like when it's smaller projects, like, it can be a daily renegotiation of contracts. But if you have like that shared collective image of like what direction we want to go in, I think that guides the process a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. And you said an important point that I wanted to make. It's based on, I think, your group. And as that group changes, it's okay to reevaluate where you are and reevaluate your plan. Big companies go through what they call a transition, a succession plan. Even nonprofits go through succession plans as you swap out your leadership, your CEO, your executive director, your upper management team. Sometimes you have to reevaluate your plan and your code of ethics. So it's something that you shouldn't, hesitate to do. If you know that maybe it just it's stagnant, or maybe there's no movement because of it, then that's the time for you to revisit it as well.
So I'd like to add an extra layer then to that, right? Because this is what NAFSN provides. NAFSN provides you with the opportunity to then publish your findings, your experiences, whether it's as a peer review in a peer reviewed journal with the journal, or whether it's more anecdotal with our blog, and to get the word out there, not just the word, but the experience. And so that you can inform others. But I think it's a little bit more exciting, and for me, I know that visibility was a big thing when I was working hyper locally. It's very important for me to be able to say, look, our organization, even the struggles, our organization's struggles were featured in this publication. And as a result, we are able to access support from this group, or input from that group, or partnership with this group. And that's what NAFSN is here to do. Not to make everything bright and shiny, just the opposite, to make sure we're diving deep into the issues and being public about them.
Yeah, and sometimes those discussions are uncomfortable, and sometimes they're difficult, but that's when you know that the work is important. Because if the work wasn't important, then it would be easy, and we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, or this discussion. So know that it's okay in your work, that if you have to have a difficult discussion or it's uncomfortable, know that that's par for the course, and that your work is meaningful because you're causing discomfort. In the words of our late great John Lewis, you're causing good trouble because you're creating a dialogue that's forcing people to think outside the box and really think in general, that differently than what everyone else is doing. So sometimes those difficult, uncomfortable discussions are required in order for change to take place.
We have a question. What is the journal? Where is the journal on your website? I'm sure there's a connection there, but I couldn't point it to you, Chad. So instead, I'm going to send you the website. please remember that these are two sister affiliates. And it's important, right? As a professional development association and a peer-reviewed journal, the management needs to remain separate so that we can make sure that the integrity of the two don't overlap in a way that would diminish either.
Absolutely, Kim. That was well said. So at this point, I think we're coming close to the end. Why I like being here with you all.
we do have a Q&A then.
Yes, but we had some poll questions, Kim, that we have posed. If you still want to go ahead and ask and maybe in the chat, we could put these questions and go back at the end before Q&A about these the answers to these poll questions. The first one is, what ethical problems do you all see that may arise or could arise in food systems development work? What expectations do we have for ourselves and each other as we work in this space together? How can a code of ethics help address systemic issues in our food systems or of our food systems rather than just the symptoms? And finally, for me, this is the key question, and Kim alluded to it just now. How do we hold each other accountable in this collaborative work? So that's important as well. And take a few moments, and as you all talk, I just want to share, for me, some of what I see as far as ethical problems and ethics working with some nonprofits. I've been in a space where a group of nonprofits do all of the grant writing together and the fundraising, and that's fine, but they share the money amongst themselves, and the money's not being shared and disseminated to the demographics and to the people that you're working for. And I call those people poverty pimps. And we all know groups like that. I'm not going to call out any names because I don't want to incriminate myself. But I call these groups poverty pimps. And that's where the ethical problems come in, is that, they would take these funds and this money and it would go to each other to pay their salaries, but the community never saw any of that money. So for me, that was a fundamental ethical flaw that I saw in just one group of nonprofits that I used to work with. So just keep that in mind as you answer these questions.
Yeah. I want to make sure that I can see the chat. We would love to have people answering the questions by poll, but we'd also love to hear your questions of us. I would, in relationship to what you just said, Erica, I would love to see food systems, and I'm not sure we have this yet anywhere. I'd like to be able to take that topic that you just said and create a mediation of, a mediated format, a safe mediated format in which one group can take that challenge to another group and have the conversation, and with the expectation that there will be some resolve, right? That feels a little bit more like a step toward equity than it did before. And so that requires an organization like NAFS to have partnerships with mediators, to have mediators as members, and also to reach beyond the food systems so that we're making sure that we're creating neutral ground.
Absolutely. And I think just as important, Kim, is to have funders at the table and available for these discussions, because sometimes they're the reason why these issues arise. And as nonprofits, and I've been on a lot of calls recently and Zooms with fundraisers of color and organizations and foundations that give monies to organizations that are working on racial equity and racial justice. But I made a point to them that, they make it so hard for nonprofits to apply for money for just general operating expenses. And we spend so much time chasing that wheel, if you will, for program money and project money. But just as important is the money that we need to fund our day-to-day operations, pay our staff, keep the lights on. But now we have COVID, but just to maintain our day-to-day operations is very hard. So funding sources and funders need to be at the table as well, and they need to be held accountable for the unrealistic expectations that they put on these small food systems groups to meet these these high expectations.
Michelle Lee notes 100% learning, humility, and knowing things are constantly changing, especially food systems, and we have to ebb and flow with them. Also, positioning ourselves where we are constantly learning. We will never really have the right answer, but we can collaborate to find the best solution for the appropriate time. Yes.
Well said. And on that, we're almost at the end. If anyone else had any comments, concerns.
Elaine asks this question: do you think it might fall within NAFS's work to provide ideas, resources for how to effectively include a goal like supporting food justice, creating sustainable food systems, ensuring access to healthy food, etc., in a strategic plan for an organization or local government? Especially what metrics or key performance indicators might be important to pay attention to and measure along the way. We probably already have some of those materials on our website, and we acknowledged earlier that our website needs to be more user-friendly. But Elaine, I'm going to type in my email, and I would love it if you reached out to me sometime, and I can point you to the direction of some resources that might help with that.
And Kim, I'm thinking about, as we're bringing Jeanette on, the community food systems tool that we used, that I was a part of, is also a good place to start when you look at how to put it in your strategic plan. Remember, it came about for my group as we were looking at our strategic plan. So that would, and Deborah, putting that excellent circle together, I would suggest that also as a starting point, utilizing that community systems tool.
Yeah, for sure. Elaine said, thank you so much. And of course, thank you so much.
Well, we like to thank you all so much for contributing to this project and giving us your time. I know this is not the sexiest topic, and I'm sure there's going to be other juicy topics here at this wonderful event. But I'm just glad that we had the time to talk to you all and share a little bit about what we do. And this is just the beginning of the conversation for us. Please help us to reach more audiences, to ensure that we reach a diversity of voices, because that's key and that's included. And we hope that you will want to stay involved in this project and others at NAFS. So again, Kim, I'll let you close it out, but thank you all.
Oh, I just want to say I'm humbled to be here. And hopefully, and hoping that we're recruiting leadership from among you to this conversation with NAFS. I'm sorry, I just want to say, as I think it was Michelle Lee said so beautifully, knowing that it's constant movement within our own minds and within our collective minds.
Well, thank you, Erica and Kim. It's a lot of gratitude given to you all, and this is passionate work, and we appreciate you collectively sharing the resources that you all have with us, and giving us space to share some information with you all too. So it's greatly appreciated. Anytime we can have you, we want to bring you back.
Go Chicago.
Right.
Thanks for leading the way.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
See ya.